It is held as a theory that the masters often receive their enlightenment in the springtime of their 37th year. But there is no limitation except that put on by the individual. 37 in the Sanskrit means eternity because you can repeat the 37 or the 7 as many times as you wish, since it completes the octave. It does not necessarily refer to years at all, but to the extension of the individual consciousness into the life universal, or into its true spiritual expression. Instead of the awakening which comes to man being a matter of years, it simply means that he becomes mature in himself, and many of the ideals given him by the race are nullified in this maturity of soul. False ideas are crowded out of consciousness, as the swelling bud pushes back the leaves that enfold it, and then the inner character stands forth. It is not intended as a second childbirth when the old man becomes childish, but he becomes the child capable of entering the kingdom. He loses the sense of importance in respect to the material world and its many problems, and begins to live in the realization of life as it is unfolding in him. Our scientists are telling us that there is not a human body in existence over 7 years old. That is, the cells are completely renewed every 7 years. That is not putting a limitation on life, because life moves in cycles and not years, and you cannot limit a cycle. It has no real beginning, and it does not come to an end. It is the eternal process of fulfilling itself and the eternal renewing process going on within the instrument through which it expresses. Life does not end at 7, nor does life ever end. Life is eternal. There is not a thing in existence that does not have life. All planets are alive. Everything has life. The rock has life. When we express life in its true and unlimited natural expression, we can and will be our own books and teachers. Also, if you can appreciate the fact that all of the cells of the body are renewed every 7 years, you will begin to realize the possibilities of life. If you will keep your mind continually renewed as the processes of life unfold, you will begin to see that life might just as well go on cycle after cycle, or continuously. The buds on a tree are just as young, whether that tree is old or young, and the bud has a completed tree within itself. The tree does not grow old except through the limitation of years that man puts upon it. Nothing grows old except through the concept that man places upon it. The scriptures teach that he was given dominion over all things. Life cannot be measured by years, and we should cease to attempt it. Life can be measured only by itself, and life is eternal, ever-present, and limitless. It is the vital action of the entire system called the universe, or God. Man places the limitation on time by delineating time for his own convenience, and that delineation does not restrict life or time by any means, except so far as his manifest possibilities are concerned. This is, in all probability, the only plane and the only condition where death is recognized. Christ said, "Let the dead bury their dead." The true man places no limitation on time. The mortal man alone does this. We get into the mortal or physical only by the placement of time or the designation of time for man's convenience. We have gone on and built up a great world of supposition, a great barrier of supposition between ourselves and the true condition. We have been led to see that barrier as insurmountable. Consequently, many of our philosophers have said that life is unknowable and could not be solved. Of course it cannot be solved when you put up barriers against it. The life of the masters is not passed in what the world would call gainful occupations. They have passed that. Their life is of service always. many of them going about from place to place assisting in what we would look upon as material ways with material things. We have never seen them accepting anything from anyone for themselves. We have seen them give out food and clothing and supplies of all descriptions. A master is a servant. If he is a master, he is above the world, and the world can give him nothing. He must reverse the process, and he in turn gives to the world. In this service they do not seem to seek out people, nor do people necessarily seek them out. The masters come across those in need in their everyday life as they go about among the people. They also assist in a universal attitude as well through thought and the projection of thought. They also project conditions of perfection into the whole world. Of course, where an individual does appeal to them for help, there is always the assistance ready. We have seen them not only assisting the individual, but great groups of individuals. But even while they are going on with that work, they are evidently sending out emanations to the whole world, which in time will cure the condition they are working on locally. They say it is necessary to work locally to assist people to a better understanding, and in many cases a better understanding comes through the furnishing of food and clothing and a better condition in which to live. The masters do go out among the people, and the people do appeal to them for help very often, and the condition which they are under is corrected almost immediately. The help given is only to show a better way to accomplish than that which they are using at the time. They do not go out and preach and proselytize at all. They walk among the people, and the people who recognize them may ask for assistance in any way they wish, for healing, food, raiment, or shelter, and they receive it. But they are shown that they themselves do it and not the masters. It is not what the masters have that they receive, but the people themselves have built up that which is brought to them through their own attitude of thought. Not what someone else has, but what they have and what belongs to them. It does not necessarily follow, however, that you must appeal in order to get assistance. The statement that the servant is worthy of his hire does not mean that one may commercialize healing. That means that the individual who thus serves is worthy of a higher life, worthy to become a master and not a servant. Of course, the master is the greatest servant, for his entire life is spent in service, for that is the field in which he works and expresses his mastership. In the matter of food, the masters consume far less than we do. We have known them to eat no more than 3 grains of rice a day, but they take in enough pranic substance to support their bodies for long periods, if necessary. They masticate their food thoroughly. They can chew these 3 grains of rice all day, and by the time they have finished, they have taken enough prana to last their bodies at least 24 hours. They have no set time for eating, for they do not work with time as men measure it. They eat whenever they feel like it. We have never known them to recognize meal hours as we recognize them. They can go without food completely for hundreds of days. As far as we know, they take very little sleep, not in excess of 2 hours a day, and they are conscious during those 2 hours. It is a well-known fact that you can get along without sleep if you know how to live without wasting your energies or contracting your consciousness through separating yourself from the universal energies. The Western world and the way they live causes sleep to become more or less a condition brought about by, as we say it, a toxic state of the body. The toxic condition overcomes to a great extent the rebuilding process of the body, and thousands of people are in that toxic state instead of being in a true condition of sleep. When Jesus said, "Awake thou that sleepest," he meant to arise from that comatose condition, and then you are out of the influence to